life can hit like a sledgehammer. But guess what? We hit back harder. Welcome to Affirm That Sh. Somehow, I thrived. I'm Jennifer Rogers, your no BS guide to turning life's toughest moments into badass victories. Ready to flip the script? Let's affirm that life can be a bitch, but somehow we thrive.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Affirm That Sh podcast. Somehow, I thrived. I'm Portia Booker from Grew with Portia, filling in today for Jennifer Rogers. And boy, do we have an amazing story for you today. So as always, before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with the community of amazing people that have already come on the show to share how they've overcome different trials, different obstacles, and how they've converted those into an opportunity. So today, everybody, we have the opportunity to sit down with Anna Kerry. And let me say, I can honestly say that Anna's story really touched me because at the tender age of 35, she experienced a stroke. But Anna didn't let that stroke be the death of her, be the end of her. She was able to birth a new opportunity, find rebirth and reimagine her own life. And now she's doing that in the lives of other people. So before we bring Anna on today, as always, we have our affirmations. If you are in a safe space to join us, take a moment to sit down in a quiet space, get yourself comfy, maybe take your house shoes off, put your feet on the ground. If you're not, feel free to come back to this episode when you're in a more calmer state or when you're not busy with the rigmarole of life, to take a minute to sit down and enjoy these affirmations. So take a deep breath in and exhale. Here we go. I am healing each and every day, and I am grateful for the movements and strength of my body. I am healing each and every day, and I am grateful for the movements of my body and my strength. I am healing each day, and I am grateful for my body's movement and strength. I am fueled by courage and determination, which leads me in overcoming any obstacle. I am fueled by courage and determination, which leads me in overcoming any obstacle. I am fueled by courage and determination, which leads me in overcoming any obstacle. I am thankful for each breath, as it is a testament to my resilience. I am thankful for each breath, as it is a testament to my resilience. I am thankful for each breath, as it is a testament to my resilience. When we come back from this break, we're going to hear from Anna. Stay tuned.
Imagine a space where you let go, where the clamor of the world quiets and you meet your truest self. At Yukio, through sound vibrations, Reiki, and the wisdom of tarot, we help you release what no longer serves you, align with your energy, and renew your spirit. Begin your journey back to yourself today.
Hello, Anna. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Anna, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you, considering a stroke at 35.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Anna, and on my show, I always talk about gratitude and grief. I'm curious, as far as for you, what was the grief journey like for you in your recovery from this stroke?
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Yeah. Great place to start as well. Really getting in right into the nitty-gritty of it. So I like that. Grief. It's a difficult thing with having a stroke because the grief that I wouldn't necessarily associate a stroke and grief in the same sentence, I don't think, usually. But absolutely, there is a hell of a lot of grief that comes with having a stroke, because you're really grieving for your old self and for your old life. Because even if you, I believe that even if you have a truly good outcome from your stroke, for me personally, my physical recovery was really, really good, really quick. For some reason, I just got lucky with my physical recovery. And I think that even if you have had that, there's still a lot going on psychologically to kind of get your head around and to think about. And the grief really comes from that you are, even then, you are a changed person. You are not the same person that you were when you went into the stroke. And so that grief is really mourning for your old self, your old life, because life can look very different after having a stroke. It can look very physically different because there is lots of physical disabilities that come with having a stroke. And it's, not just outside disabilities, there's lots of hidden disabilities as well with having a stroke. There's things like sensory overload, fatigue, anxiety, all of those types of things as well, that people don't necessarily see. So there's definitely, for me, there needs to be this process and this space for you to grieve for that old self, so that then you can start to kind of move forwards, and kind of, once you can start grieving for your old self, you can then start to accept this new self, and you can start to find ways forward and kind of think, maybe this isn't too bad, this new self. So yeah, it's definitely a process that you do need to go through when you go through something like this. And it's not just a stroke, even any other challenging life event or health event or anything like that, that could be quite similar, where your life is kind of changed after. It's that you do need to take that time and that space to go through that grief process, definitely.
And I thought about something when you brought up grieving that old self of who you were before and who you are now. And then the in between, right? In between that recovery period. I'm curious, Anna, how did you, because we all do it, we are very hard on ourselves. How did you show yourself grace during that recovery period? And how do you continue to do that even now that you're out of the thick of the stroke period?
Yeah, that's work in progress, definitely. Giving myself grace is something that is definitely a work in progress for me. It's something that I'm definitely still working on. But I do think that, for me, when I went through the stroke, it was very much like, I've got through this. And I was very much before I had the stroke, I was very much in a space of, I was very fit and healthy, probably the fittest and healthiest I'd ever been at that point in my life. And I was getting on this journey to really starting to love my body as it was. Yes, I was fit and healthy, and, I was eating healthy, I was exercising, but I wasn't concerned about getting thin. I was concerned about being healthy and fit and strong. And that's what I was kind of aiming for at that point when I had the stroke. And then obviously I had the stroke, and what I actually thought and what I wrote about at the time was like, I suppose I could have gone down one of two routes, and I could have gone down the route of, why has this happened to me? Why has my body done this to me? And maybe there was a bit of an element of, you feel like, sometimes you can feel like your body's kind of betrayed you, because this thing's happened and you've been treating it really good and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, and then it's kind of boom, this thing's happened. But actually, I kind of looked at it as, my body's freaking amazing. Like, it's got me through this. Like, it's kind of, the only thing I knew about strokes at the time when I had it was that, one, I thought it was just old people that had them, which obviously isn't true. And two, that people die from them, which is true. People do die from them, but obviously people do, survive them as well. And so I was thinking at the point when I was having it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, because this was all I knew about strokes at the time. And so when, you've come through the other side of it, and I'm just like, yeah, Polly's fucking amazing for getting myself through this. And so I think I was full of gratitude for my body and for what it had done. And I think that that's something that, again, is still a work in progress for me, and giving myself that grace and that kindness has been, it's always been something that before the stroke I struggled with, but was something that I was kind of working on. But it's been, the past 4 years has been a real journey for me to kind of really allow myself to settle into that, and to kind of really explore how that looks for me, because giving yourself grace and gratitude and loving yourself looks very different for everyone. And so, yeah, that's something that's definitely been part of my journey, and something that I've been exploring quite a lot.
Anna, you said something that really is kind of like oxymoronic. You were healthy and fit, and you had a stroke. And to your point, that most of us think that strokes, diabetes, heart attacks, some of these health ailments that we're used to hearing that people who are 30 plus our age have, they're happening to people younger. Right. And I know for you, your journey really started to pivot with the integration of yoga. You share with us about that journey of discovering yoga out of anything to really start to help you to regain that level of security and confidence in yourself.
Yeah, yoga is such an amazing thing. My journey with yoga started in probably my mid-20s. And then it wasn't until I got to my late 20s when I really started to take it a little bit more seriously. And I decided that I wanted to train to be a yoga teacher. And so this was kind of all of this journey with my yoga and my sense of self, I suppose, kind of really fitted together with like this journey that I was on before my stroke. And then when I had the stroke, my yoga and my stroke massively entwined with each other. When I was having the stroke, the morning that I had my stroke, I was in a panic, obviously. I knew everything that was happening. So I knew that I was having a stroke because I had the very typical fast symptoms. So I had a drooping face, although I didn't know because I obviously couldn't see my face. I couldn't speak properly. My arm wouldn't lift. So all of the very typical fast symptoms that you would get, I had all of those. And so in my head, I'm thinking, shit, I'm having a stroke. And my husband is on the phone to the paramedics saying, I need an ambulance, my wife's having a stroke. And we were waiting for them to come. And my husband laid me down on the bed because I was kind of very lopsided. I couldn't, sit up properly. So my husband laid me down on the bed, and I was in an absolute panic, as any normal person would be. And he said to me these amazing words: use your yoga breath. And that really started the journey of yoga and stroke for me, as to how closely entwined they came, because it was very much a gift that my husband offered me in that moment of, actually, in this moment where I feel like there's no control over anything that is happening in my body, this is something I can control. This is something I can do and latch onto to calm myself a little bit. So, and all he meant by it, because he doesn't really do yoga, so all he meant was just deepen your inhalations and lengthen your exhalations a bit to be able to calm yourself. And so that's what I did. And it calmed me. It doesn't take away the fact that I'm having a stroke. It's still bloody terrifying. But it helps me to deal with it in a better way. And so when I was in hospital, just a quick note as well, I was in hospital on my own because it was COVID times. So my husband couldn't come to the hospital with me, extra trauma on top of everything else. And I was in the hospital and I'd spoken to one of the doctors because they were asking me lots of questions about what I do and everything. And it came up that I was a yoga teacher as well as my like full-time job that I had. And I was feeling really, really anxious one day in the hospital. And she was like, do some meditation. And I was like, yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, that sounds really good. But for the life of me, I just couldn't. I couldn't sit with myself. I found it so difficult because there were so many things whirling around in my head, so many anxieties that were coming forth. Is this going to happen again? Like, we don't know why this has happened yet. So, anything could happen. And so it wasn't until I got home from hospital when I was discharged and I was messaging my yoga teacher friends group that I had, the people that I trained with, and was asking if any of them knew of anyone that had any experience in trauma, because what I'd been through was traumatic. And they mentioned someone that we knew, that they knew someone. I knew the person as well. I just didn't know that he'd done trauma. So I got in touch with him, and he really started me on my journey with yoga and my recovery, because he was very much like, obviously work within the realms of what your doctors have told you can do, but when you've been through trauma, sometimes just sitting in like a meditation, in a silent meditation, isn't actually that helpful when you've been through a trauma. So use your body as like a moving meditation. So just do some gentle movements using your breath and just see how that feels. And that was the start of the journey, really. It was my recovery physically, like I said earlier, was very good, very fast. So I could do physical movements, but I slowed everything down, really very much based on the floor. I was literally just lying down for most of the movements, but it was just some gentle movements that really helped me to kind of get back into my body and to learn to trust my body again. I was very conscious of having my head upside down, so like doing any like downward facing dog or anything like that, I was very conscious of. But gradually, as I started to trust myself again and started to trust my body again, those things just came along with time and just felt right in the moment to kind of explore and do them and see how that kind of felt. And I think that's the thing about yoga, is it's very much an individual thing, and it is, how does that posture feel to you? Like, it's never about how it looks, it's about how it feels. It's something that I've always said to people that I work with, and it's just, it was very much like, let's just feel this and see how it goes. And it just allowed me to just build that process of trust up again within my body, because when you go through something like a stroke, because it's very physical, in the fact that your body, like I was, when it was happening, I was looking down at my left arm when the paramedics on the phone was saying to my husband, get her to raise her arms. And I'm looking down at my left arm, willing it to move, and it just won't. It's very disconcerting. And you can quite easily disconnect from your body and quite easily come into that state of, I don't trust what my body is doing, because even when my movements started to come back, and like I said, they came back relatively quickly, it was like you have to think about your movements. It's not automatic on that side. So I was very much like, my arm was moving, but it was very much like, it felt like it was moving through water, is the way I describe it quite often. And you have to just really think about what it's doing. So it's very disconcerting, and it does mean that very much a lot of the time you can just completely disconnect, and that's what my yoga practice really did for me. It was about connecting back into me. So that was kind of how my journey started, and it just kind of grew from there, really.
When I think, Anna, you really hit on something. When your husband told you to breathe, the inhale and exhale, the power of your mind in that moment to trust your breath. Do
Yes.
you also think, Anna, that because of your already deep rooted tradition and practice in yoga, and your husband kind of giving you that instruction to breathe in and breathe out, do you think that also helped you to possibly recover a little faster because you trusted in that moment? So I'm going to think that possibly that helped you down the road.
Yeah, I think it possibly did. I think because it's so amazing. For me, a yoga practice is just such an amazing thing to have, and it's been something that has definitely helped me in many different occasions. I mean, my yoga mat has seen me at my worst, where you know I'm crying on my yoga mat. I'm trying to comfort myself. I'm panicking on my yoga mat. There's lots of things my yoga mat has seen, and yeah, I do think having this practice, it's been instrumental in my recovery, definitely. And I see that when I've used it with other people, I've seen how much it's helped them as well. So I do think that I was lucky that I already had this practice in my life that I could draw on, that has been really, like I say, instrumental in my recovery, definitely. And I think it's that mindset that I had as well with my recovery. It was always very much like, I want to get something good out of this terrible experience, and get something, like, to just know that, like, what I've been through isn't just, that there's some meaning behind it, maybe, or there's just something that I can gain from it, because I think I think that mindset really helped me, and I think that does tie into my yoga practice as well. And how, because my yoga practice, yes, like I say, my yoga mat has seen an awful lot of stuff of me, but it's not just a physical practice. It is the other side of it as well, that really has helped, and living those values, I suppose.
And you brought up the mindset piece, right? And I'm wondering, for you during that recovery journey, and even now that you have come to a more healthier state in your path, I'm
Mm.
curious, were there any limiting beliefs that you had during your recovery that you were able to work through using yoga? And then
Mm.
if they do arise again, what's your way to, if you want to call it, silence? My inner critic's name is rump roast. So silence your own rump roast.
I love that name. Yes, inner critic. I haven't got a name for her, but she's bloody loud at times, and she has been very loud at times. So yes, I talk about mindset a lot, and that's something that I do feel is massively important in stroke recovery. Like, if you can get a decent mindset going on, then you're well on your way. But it is hard. There's so many things that I've felt after having a stroke, like ridiculous things as well, like guilt, like, oh my God, I put all this stress into all of my family's life. This is all my fault. And like, I say it like it's all my fault. And yet, the stroke happened, like my stroke happened because I had a hole in my heart, which I didn't know about. So it's clearly not my fault. It's just one of those things I was born with. Like, you can't help these things. But yes, there's definitely been some mindset challenges at times, and definitely that inner critic, and that inner voice that just is not kind at times. And this is something that, again, with my yoga practice, and it's something that I've really had to work on for myself. It's been a big thing for me, because I think, there's other aspects of my life where I've maybe not felt good enough, and things like that. And I do, like, sometimes I'll draw it back and think, where I don't feel good enough, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, Anna, you've got through a fucking stroke. You can, like, and I think I've heard other people say that, when a workout gets tough, like, come on, you've got through a stroke, you can bloody do this, and it's so, I think that flipping it round has really kind of helped me a little bit with that type of thing. But the thing, like I say, the thing that's been one of my main struggles is just giving myself grace and giving myself that kindness. But there's this thing that I use, and that I've taught to other people as well. Is about you. You might have heard of it, loving kindness meditations, where you'll say, I am happy, I'm healthy, those types of things that you would say in a meditation for loving kindness. And I think when someone that doesn't necessarily love themselves or is kind to themselves, it can be very jarring to say I am happy, or I am healthy, or especially if you've been through a stroke, saying I am healthy that can be very jarring. And so the thing that I always use for me and for other people as well is that this was something that when I was on my one of my yoga courses doing my trauma informed yoga teacher training, was something that our teacher gave to us, and was something that I always now use going forwards, because it's very, like I say, it can be very jarring doing something like that. But actually, if you just tweak the wording a little bit and say, I am moving towards happiness, or just reword it in a way that it's not so like, I am happy, yes, there I am, I'm there. Like, you need to be able to feel it. So if you can say something along the lines of, I am moving towards happiness, or I am moving a little bit closer to happiness, then it feels like, oh, okay, that's a little small step that I can make, that doesn't feel like I'm over here at one point and then I need to be like right over here. So it breaks it down a little bit more, and that's something that has always been massively helpful for me to do, for getting through those moments where I'm kind of doubting myself, or that inner critic is ridiculously loud. So yeah, I found that's really helpful.
Well, Anna, just hearing your story, I mean, powerful. You know, overcoming those limiting beliefs, listening to your husband, trusting in your own strength in that moment of you don't know what the heck is going to be the outcome, where you mentioned people can die from strokes, people live, and then there's these other hidden complications that spring up. Maybe it's a year after recovery, 10 years,
Yeah.
but you're still standing strong. You're still making an impact in other people's lives. And, what a beautiful way that you were able to turn that adverse circumstance into an opportunity for you and other people. Anna, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. But if our audience wants to connect with you, work with you, is there, a book or something you're working on? Please share that with us today.
So I would love to say that there's a book that I'm working on. I am actually that is something that I do want to do in the long term. So keep watching this space for that one. I do have there is a workbook that I've created, which you can buy off Amazon, which that's to do with, it very much leans into your nervous system, and it was kind of, I used to run a workshop for stroke survivors, and helping them to kind of regulate their nervous system, and to kind of find that feeling of that calmness in amongst the storm. So I did a workshop, and there was a workbook that went with it that I did, and so I kind of released that separately as a book that people can kind of work through on their own. So you can get that off Amazon. If you search Anna Kerry, it will come up. But yeah, other places that you can find me and my work. I have a website, which is just annakerrycoaching.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Again, Facebook is just Anna Kerry. coaching, and my Instagram is Anna_Kerry_coaching. So anything to do with Anna Kerry coaching, you'll find me.
Well, everybody, you heard from Anna herself. If you want to connect with her, we'll be on the lookout, Anna, when that book comes out.
Yes.
You know, maybe it's the phrase from my husband that saved my life. I don't know how you want to word that, but, you know, we'll definitely be excited. And thank you again, Anna, for coming on the
Thank you for
Affirm
having
That
me.
Sh podcast. Everybody, you heard from Anna. Stay tuned until next episode. Take care now.
You just took another step towards owning your story and thriving against all odds. This is Affirm That Shit. Somehow, I thrived. If you're ready to keep kicking ass, subscribe now and let's keep breaking barriers together. Remember, life's a battle, but somehow you'll thrive.